After the honeymoon phase of any relationship, no matter what gender or combination of genders, there's a natural bit of a decline in sexual frequency. That happens in all relationships. And somehow that got, that label landed on lesbian couples more than anyone else. But I know that if we're intentional and we do the things that nurture our relationship and our sexual connection, we can have a dynamic sex life for our whole lives.
Sophics and allies, you're listening to Queer Women Rising. That's women with an X because we are inclusive here. When we hear the stories of queer women who have gone before us, we see evidence that there's nothing we can't do. And yes, we can too. It's time for you to level up in life, in love, and step into your most authentic, abundant reality. You won't be the same after this episode. It's your turn to let go of good for greatness. Your best life is now loading. Let's rise.
Let's rise. Let's rise.
Let's rise.
Let's rise.
Let's
rise.
Let's rise.
Let's rise.
Whether you are preparing for your next relationship and you want to do it right, the healthy way, or you want to spice up and even save potentially an existing relationship, you're going to want to cozy up and enjoy this episode of Queer Women Rising with me and my guest, Dr. Lynda, who I have been a huge fan of for a long time on TikTok, so I'm geeking out right now. Let me tell you about her. So Dr. Lynda founded the Lesbian Couples Institute, LCI, in 2018. LCI offers personal in-person therapy and online coaching to lesbian couples by a lesbian couple. Beyond her successful partnership, this woman is qualified to help you. Lynda's parents were Baptist missionaries from Texas. However, she was born and raised in Uruguay, South America, and she spent her childhood and teen years living in Uruguay and Texas. Dr. Spann has a BA in psychology from Baylor University, and her MA in family studies and PhD in marriage family therapy were earned at Texas Tech University. So she's qualified. After completing her doctorate in 1996, Lynda moved to Pueblo, Colorado, and started her private counseling practice. Outside of work, Dr. Lynda and her wife love to travel, make homemade ravioli. I love following them on TikTok for how they cook for each other and hike together. They spend time with their grandkids, and they throw great Halloween parties and go to concerts, and they share all about it. The combination of having this doctorate in marriage and family therapy, years of practice as a couples counselor, and her own challenges really create a truly healthy, intimate relationship now that she can share. And that's what enables Dr. Lisa to guide her clients at LCI to build thriving relationships that last. In her 25 years as an expert, as a licensed expert in marriage therapy, Dr. Spann has helped hundreds of couples, and what a privilege it is for us to be next. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited. I feel like a little bit fangirly right now.
Cool, me too.
It's so nice to meet you.
So great to see you, Sophia. Thank you for having me on. I'm just delighted and can't wait for the conversation that's going to unfold.
I can't wait either. You have such an example that we look up to as lesbians on TikTok, and you're sharing not only from your expertise, but your experiences. And so many couples out here, whether they are just getting in the ring, they're just meeting each other and they feel like their relationship is spicy, or they're trying to save something or just keep it alive. We got to talk about it, because there's this term called the lesbian deathbed that like goes around. And I'm like, can you define that for the audience? And is it real, or is this just something that people talk about and it's not something to really be afraid of? Like, is it real?
First of all, no, you shouldn't be afraid of it. It is kind of this common term that actually emerged from some research in I think the 1980s. But I'm a little bit allergic to that term. I think it's a bit, just yucky. And the truth is that after the honeymoon phase of any relationship, no matter what gender or combination of genders, that there's a natural bit of a decline in sexual frequency. That happens in all relationships. And somehow that got, that label landed on lesbian couples more than anyone else. But I know that if we're intentional and we do the things that nurture our relationship and our sexual connection, we can have a dynamic sex life for our whole lives. And I'm very visual. So when I hear lesbian bed death, I like picture two skeletons in bed together. It's just really not a phrase that I'm a fan of. And more importantly, there's no reason on earth that you have to give up a vital sex life if that's what you both desire.
I agree. Sorry, I was picking up a few things you were saying because our internet's going whack. We're literally in a hurricane. So if I'm delayed, that might be why.
Okay.
But no, I totally get that. I think it's not fair because heterosexual couples, like after a honeymoon phase, that can happen.
Yeah.
So it seems normal. Now, everyone has different desires. Can we talk about that? Because I don't even think some couples, and even me sometimes, I don't even know how to express what I desire because I feel like there's two different things, at least for me, and maybe you can explain it better. But I think of like, okay, the desire for frequency of sex in my relationship, and then the desire for like what I actually want. But it's so hard for me to explain because I have religious trauma and I don't really know where to start.
Sure.
How would you,
Sure.
break
Well, it is
that down?
It is true that most couples of all types, again, and in lesbian couples as well, that often there's a discrepancy in sexual desire. That just means one person has a higher libido, has more of that like spontaneous desire. It's been referred to as a kaboom desire, while the other partner might have more of a sleepy desire, a lower libido. The truth, here's the good news. You don't have to have spontaneous desire to get it on with your partner. What you need to have is what's called responsive desire. Almost every human on earth has responsive desire. Not everyone, but most people. So you can work as a team on learning how to talk about it, including religious trauma, potentially other traumas, so that you create safety, right? You want to create safety between the two of you. And we can talk more about what can help with that desire discrepancy. But yeah, so how is it okay if I ask you a question?
Therapize.
So like when you say religious trauma impacts you, what like how does that show up for you?
Okay, good question. So sometimes I wonder if my lack of desire before being in a safe container of a relationship, like I don't look at someone and think I want to have sex with them. I can look at them and think, oh my God, they're so hot, but not, oh my gosh, I want to have sex. But I think that comes from religious trauma. I know, I don't know, I'm not the therapist. And I also don't know if it's maybe not. Does that make sense? Where it's coming from? Is it authentic or is it something ingrained?
Right. And I got to tell you, the hurricane vibe just broke you up. So I missed some of what you said.
Okay.
I think you're just describing that maybe you don't perhaps naturally have a lot of spontaneous desire. And truthfully, the psychology behind religious trauma or other trauma can also kind of put a damper on our awareness about that too. So that's perfectly natural. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. I'm understanding your feed that you're in a relatively new, spicy lesbian relationship. Yay. Congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you.
So at this phase, you're probably all hopped up on love hormones, including oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin and all those great things. So first of all, enjoy the heck out of that. And as that wanes, just remember that as long as you have responsive desire, you can have a fulfilling sexual relationship.
Okay. So like if for some reason me wanting to have sex twice a day would eventually go a little bit down, that doesn't mean anything necessarily bad.
No. And I mean, how sustainable is that over a lifetime when you're working and having other relationships? And so it's completely normal. It's not a bad thing. What's important is that you and your partner, talk about these things and talk about, okay, here's my ideal. Here's what I would like as we continue to be together. And communication is one of the most important things for keeping your sex life vibrant.
I love it. Some people are so nervous to bring up sex. It's something that me and my partner do easily. Even if I get stuck in the conversation, I'm able to bring it up pretty easy. And it feels like a safe place. How would you advise someone who's like, oh my God, I never brought it up? Like sex is just something we do, not something we talk about. Like how do you, I know how I bring it up and it's just literally like normal, but
Yeah.
is there any like secret sauce?
The secret sauce is to embrace the awkwardness and do it anyway. Because for a lot of people, especially with religious trauma, just the subject itself can be like, oh, I don't know if I should even talk about this. May not even have the language for it. So embrace the awkwardness. You know, you can create a setting where you're both just like really chill and you're hanging out. Be sure to look at each other face on when you're talking so that you can see each other's faces. That helps us feel safe. So you want to create a safe place. And I think in the beginning, just saying, let's just brainstorm. Let's not make this a plan. This isn't about finding a solution. It's just about like talking about our feelings and thoughts and desires. One kind of fun thing that's available, I hope it's okay to say this, I think it is.
Say anything.
If you Google yes, no, maybe, do you know about these? The yes, no, maybe. So these are like questions, or it's a whole bunch of sexual ideas, positions, experiences, activities that would be considered sexual. And so you get all of them. They're a little bit heterosexually geared, but just
we replace the
convert it, right? And then you can have a conversation of like put a check mark. Oh, yes, definitely into this. Would do this in a heartbeat. So the yes, no hesitation. The maybe is like, well, maybe under certain circumstances, or I would be willing to experiment with it, but I don't know if I'd like it for life. But a maybe, and then a column of no way, I'm not into this. And you can imagine the things that you might not be into, but that's a great icebreaker for new couples to say, okay, let's talk about what we'll say yes to, maybe, or no.
Yeah.
So that can help break a conversation open. But the main thing is have it no matter how you're feeling, whether it's scared or awkward, have the conversation anyway.
I love what you said. Like, it doesn't have to be about making a plan. Just talk about it. And I think that is something that me as like such a type A personality would struggle with. And I know my girlfriend, like we're both the kind of people that's like, okay, if we say we're going to make a change on something, then we have to do it, blah, blah, blah. But as we go forward and we want to explore different things or just go deeper emotionally with each other, it can't always be about making a plan. It has to just be a safe place to share. Yeah. Maybe someone else out there, you just need to hear that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And let me say this, Sophia, that making a plan too early actually results in lessening the depth in your relationship and makes the plan less likely to succeed. Because you want to spend the time really getting to a place of empathizing with each other, understanding each other, where you're coming from, what you think and want and feel, before you ever get around to solutions or negotiating. So you've and I get it. There's this inner like type A person inside of you that's like, got to make this work. Let's get the solution. But calm that part of you and say, we'll get there. First, let's do the preliminary, just open, honest talking.
I love it. And I think even as a single person who's waiting for their future wife, their future partner, looking up that yes, no, maybe, and like just getting clear with yourself would be really fun to like figure out where you stand.
I have some other resources on my website, which is lesbiancoupleinstitute.com, some blogs about sex and some other resources in the shop too. So the yes, no, maybe just popped into my head as a good conversation starter.
Yeah, no, it's good. Good. We got a message from the Devon Diary, and she said when I bring up, I think she was referring to like having sexual conversations, she gets shunned. Do you have any advice for creating that safe space?
Shunned by partner, I'm guessing. Um, I think going meta first and just saying to your partner, I think I would like us to start talking about some more intimate topics. How and not really asking, is that okay with you, but just like, how can we make that fun and protected so that we don't argue, we don't get horribly embarrassed. So start at setting the stage that that's something you would like, and then find out from your partner what would make that feel okay for you. How can we make that safe for you? So I would go meta first, so that it's not just like out of the blue, because if it comes out of the blue and there's already this resistance, you can get even more resistance. And that shunning is really your partner's resistance and fear, probably.
Wow. Yeah, the meta perspective isn't something I would have even thought to go to set the stage. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. That's good. That's good. Okay, so we've got lesbians talking. What if you're just getting into a relationship, you've never talked about sex before, but this isn't something you're struggling with. You're just getting into it. Do you have any conversations before you do the thing? I know for me, I personally couldn't without. But for somebody who's like, I haven't been in a relationship forever, Dr. Lynda, help me, like,
Yeah.
please. How do they talk about it before the first time?
Yeah. I think that's pretty hormone driven. So some people just hop in the sack and get on with it, right? And there's not really conversation.
Yeah.
And other people, depending on age and life experience and just, what you want, will have the conversation first. And I just think, again, it goes to acknowledging this is awkward. There's not a lot of, like, no one teaches us how to have these conversations, and just being vulnerable and saying, I get that this is super early on, and I don't even know if we're going to end up rolling in the hay together, but can we talk a little bit about our values around sexual intimacy, and maybe a little bit about what we're into, what we like, what we don't like. And, if you've had a few dates, and in our community, dates can be pretty elongated. Like, we don't just go out for a 30-minute coffee. We're like still there 4 hours later. So if you're hitting it off and vibing, you'll have that sensation of, I think probably we're moving in this direction, and let's just talk about it.
I'm losing you. No.
I'm really here. Your page is spinning a little bit. I'm sure it's the weather, but I'm still here.
Okay, good. I'm glad they heard what you had to say. No, thank you for the advice, though, because just what I could hear, the beginning part, so good. Because I get shy. Well, now that I'm in a relationship, no, but before I get shy to be like, hey, I need to talk about this first. And the way you just said it was so good. Can you say that one more time? Just like that first thing, like you said, like, I know we may not get there. You worded it so well.
Oh gosh, I can never remember what I just said. I think just acknowledging, this isn't moving toward a plan. I just want to have an open conversation about it. And please, and you might even say, please know that's kind of scary for me and awkward, but I think it makes sense for us to talk about this, since we're two adults that are likely to move into the sexual arena.
Yeah.
And somebody, Rebecca, was saying the eye contact. So when you're having these conversations, don't sit next to each other. Sit face to face, so that you can really read each other and look into one another's eyes.
That's important. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now let's pivot back. You've been in the relationship for a while, and there are sexual discrepancies.
Yeah.
Once you've done all those icebreakers, if it's still not working out, how do you go from there? How do you adjust?
Well, you can always reach out to me for some couples help, including how to learn to communicate and handle these. But some just typical, or I don't want to say typical, some little tips that I have. If you can have a conversation about, okay, these are the things that turn me on, that rev up my engine. We might call those accelerators in the literature. This idea is called accelerators. And these are the things that put the kibosh on it. So these are the brakes. And identify, okay, these are the things that help me get into sensuality, into the desire for pleasure. And these are the things that definitely put the brake on it. So some things that help a low desire partner get into it might be some visual stimulation, or that the dishes are washed. It could be that, we just kind of kiss and have a slow start. Some breaks might be, your dog's in the bedroom, or I don't feel clean. I got dragon breath. And so when you know what the breaks are, then you can address those. Like, dishes bother you? Let me go wash the dishes. Then can we meet in the bedroom? You're self-conscious of your hygiene. Well, let's hop in the bath together or have a shower together, so that you address the brakes. And then if you know what the accelerators are, you push on that gas pedal. So having a discussion about that's really helpful to get to know really yourself and your partner better.
So good. So good. I definitely could see how, if you're working with someone who's unreasonable, though, like, all these things make sense to soften it for someone who's reasonable. And then if you're not, and they like I could just see, like, I think back to toxic relationships, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I could have said all those things and she would have still, like, been rude in response back to me.
Well, and here's the thing, that there's the two most important things for a lifetime of sexual intimacy are being friends. So all the things about friendliness, which means being open and inviting and not like rejecting. So being friends, and the second thing is to prioritize sexual intimacy as a couple. So if you're already getting somebody that's rejecting and doesn't want to have the conversation and sort of makes fun of it, that's not very friendly. No. And you have to ask yourself, is this going to work?
Yeah. I think that's a hard thing for people to do, because we can be so like, really our life decision we're going to spend the rest of our life with not only affects how often we get to have intimacy, but literally how we feel about ourselves all the time. And it's just like fine line of taking ownership of your own feelings, but also admitting to yourself, if someone is doing things to make you feel bad, like, how long will you tolerate something like that? And I know I did for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard, especially if you've been looking for a partner and you've been lonely and you finally are spending time with someone. It can be tempting to compromise our values and our must-haves. Yeah. But life is short, everyone. Don't put up with being mistreated.
Yeah. I think, like, being single in peace is always going to trump being in a chaotic relationship, even where I can look back in the past and be like, oh my gosh, that relationship was so sexually charged, but then it was so painful. And it's just, now that I've experienced peace, that's a non-negotiable. I can't fathom going back, and I wish I could let people like feel like, I joke like, oh, I wish guys could feel what a menstrual cycle feels like. I wish I could cut a little bit of my healthy relationship and let you feel that peace. Because I think once you would feel it, you couldn't fathom allowing someone to do that to you, especially when it comes to your efforts of attempting to be intimate and kind to them. So if you're going through that, please do what's right for you, and know that the only way to meet your soulmate is to be single to meet your soulmate.
That's right. That's right. And what you're looking for, that I love how you're describing that peace, Sophia, but the peace comes from feeling really secure. Safe and secure is really what you're going for. And if you don't feel safe and secure, and I'm not talking about, I'm not really thinking of physical safety. I'm thinking about emotional safety. Only within that safety can you really become vulnerable to have the conversations and even to go into sexual experiences. If you don't feel safe, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think for me, before getting into a healthy relationship, I assumed that the butterfly feeling was good. And so I was looking for that feeling of not being safe. And I've been working through with my therapist, and she's like, no, like it's actually supposed to be peaceful.
Yeah.
But for someone who hasn't figured that out or found that relationship, is there a way from a therapist perspective to identify what is butterflies versus anxiety? I know we weren't going to even talk about that, but
Um,
I know if I'm thinking it, someone else might be thinking it.
Well, and you're right that excitement and fear are they show up kind of similarly in the body. I think one way to kind of discern what are the nuances of differences for each of us individually is to really like be aware when I'm scared, how does that nervousness, where does it land in my body? What does it feel like? And it can be like about anything. It can be like about being on a tense, a high rooftop somewhere and getting a little woozy and you feel afraid. So it doesn't have to be about intimacy, but how does fear show up in my body, in your body, and how does excitement? And there's probably a little bit of a nuance of a difference, even though they can feel pretty similar. Sometimes this gets tricky and we don't have enough time here to unpack this, but sometimes we experience a feeling of excitement or even calm when something related to our own early life trauma shows up, like because it's like, oh, this is exciting. I know what to do here, because it's familiar. And sometimes the unfamiliar, we're like, there's no spark here. So that's a whole nother layer. But just be mindful of how does your body feel fear and how does it feel excitement? And the butterfly feeling that you're talking about, is it the fear or is it excitement?
That's good. That's good. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, if in doubt, it's almost like looking at it and be like, if this wasn't me and I was giving advice to my friend, like, does this feel healthy? Like,
Yeah.
Because if you can't determine is it anxiety or like excitement, I think if I were to be honest with myself in the past, now that I think about it, is that even the question? It's like, is this kind to you? Is this and like because that is hard. You're right. It's hard to summarize in just this one little, talk that we're having here. But that's good. Now I know you're pretty confident that straight couples can learn a lot from us lesbians. So what is like the biggest thing that you feel straight couples can learn, can take a page out of our books?
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of sex, the research shows that lesbian couples have more fulfilling sex in the sense that they hang out longer. There's more tenderness, more passion, and so I think straight couples can learn to slow it down a little bit and enjoy the whole process and not just be focused on the bingo. Outside of the sexual area, one of the things also that I think is true for lesbian couples is that we negotiate, we have to negotiate things as couples, like who's going to do what and what are the chores and what are the things that have to get done. And straight couples really lean into the old-fashioned gender roles on that. And, he's going to mow the lawn and take out the trash and she's going to cook and whatever. And younger straight couples aren't quite that rigid, but lots of gender roles. Whereas for us, we get to choose based on our interests and our strengths. And if there's something neither of us like, then we're going to be fair about it. So we don't have to be so shackled by old-fashioned gender roles. Those are a couple of things that come to mind. The other thing is that in terms of communication, women are I think, socialized and wired to be more focused on feelings and emotions, and try, we work together to keep the emotional climate in the relationship healthy. And I think that straight couples can learn from us on that too.
I agree. Like, we have to have these conversations. It's not just like a understanding, oh, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this. The other day, me and my partner were talking about moving in together, and I was sharing about different chores. Like, hey, I really love doing dishes. I really love like organizing the pantry. Like, you never have to go grocery shopping. I want to do all that. And I'll vacuum, but I really don't like doing laundry. Like, I'll do it, but it won't be as good as if you do it. I already know, like, she's already folded my stuff so pretty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. Like, I get excited to see what she folds. And then I was like, but the trash, I'm happy to take out the trash. And she was like, oh no, the princess should never take out the trash. And I was like,
well, she's already treating you like a queen. Good for her.
know.
Yeah,
like,
so
everyone has their things.
That's great that you all have that conversation. And again, it's based on what you like, what you're good at. And you'll find some things that neither of you are keen on. You'll figure that out too.
Yeah.
Fairness is important, so keep it fair.
I agree. We had Anxie write in. She said, will an avoidant girlfriend reach out after a breakup? I guess we were talking about like some sad times when she dropped that, but
yeah.
Will an avoidant girlfriend reach out first? What do you have to say about that?
Probably not. But I wouldn't expect it.
No.
However, people with avoidant attachment surprise us all from time to time. If you want to see if there's an opportunity to reconnect after a breakup, don't wait for the other person, regardless of their attachment style. If that's a strong desire in you, take the risk, reach out, and try to manage your expectations around that, so that you can. Yeah, because if we don't manage expectations, that's when we feel dysregulated and depressed and disappointed.
That's good. That's really good. Like, why put yourself through the hell of it waiting? Like, just if that's your desire, reach out and manage the expectation. Know, like, hey, she might not respond and I'll be okay. That's really good. I think we like spend all day doing these little quizzes or pulling tarot cards or doing all kinds of bullshit, but we really should just be like, I'm a grown up. I feel like reaching out, and I have to have grown up expectations that they might not respond. It could be that simple.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's
Thank you so much. Okay, the last things I want to ask you is, what are like the 3 to 5 tips, whatever it is, where you're like, if you do this in your lesbian relationship, you have way better luck, way better chances at succeeding. I'm sure you've seen a lot as a therapist. What are the, like, if we could write it down, we're all taking notes. What is it?
So the number one thing is to put your focus on building safety and security. And we do that through how we show up in conversation and how we show up in other ways. So some little tips on that are land in good belly hugs, bear hugs several times a day. Look into each other's eyes. Inquire about what's going on with your partner. Those are little ways to build security in your relationship. So building security is the top of the chart on that. I think that committing to having daily catch-up chats, I call them, where you just kind of hang out, again, sitting in a way that you're facing each other, and have little conversations, no matter how busy life is. And they don't have to be problem-centered. In fact, I don't think they ought. These particular conversations ought not be. I think it's great to break out of the boring question of how was your day. That is really tired, my friend. So you can ask questions that will automatically set the stage for more positivity. Remember, we have a lot of negativity bias in our brain. So by asking, like, when did you laugh today? Tell me what happened. What was the best part of your day? So be creative about questions you ask that will get a positive story that will help your sense of security as well. Eye gazing. Somebody talked about looking in each other's eyes. Eye gazing is actually very wonderful thing to do that helps partners have success in their relationship, and it does increase security. So, it can be challenging, and ultimately, really, it can be fun. And it's okay if you laugh through this, but set your alarm on your phone for 60 seconds and just hang out looking in your partner's eyes. Notice what comes up. Laugh if you feel like it. Don't talk. Try that. That's a brilliant exercise for connection. I think another important habit is to, particularly as you're moving into the second stage of relationship, to really work at balancing the safety and security of us together, but also our independence and individuality, so that there's this balance between us time and me time, co-regulating and self-soothing. Sometimes I talk about the tendency for a really strong merge early on in a relationship that makes it difficult to find the balance.
Guilty.
And it's okay. For the beginning of a relationship, that's actually good. That's healthy. It helps build real trust and security early on. But later on, you want to have that balance. So finding ways, like, I love you and I can't wait to see you, and I'm going to the gym alone. So that you get that balance. I don't know if that's five things.
That's great. No, there's a perfect.
And the other thing is to really dial in on really good communication. And I in my TLC methodology, one of the main things that I do is teach a tremendously successful communication model. I probably have some blogs about that too. Be sure to check out my website, by the way, if you're hanging out here, which is lesbiancoupleinstitute.com. So really dialing in on communication early in the relationship is what's going to set the stage for you to have success for life.
So good. And if people have watched or are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, even in a couple months from now, and they're like, oh my God, I need to talk to Dr. Lynda. I want to work with her. Do you do one-on-one? Do you have a group program? Do you have courses? What does that look like?
Yeah, so primarily I have a coaching program it's virtual. It's a hybrid program with just rich training material and a group container with other lesbian couples and one-on-ones. So that is primarily how we work at this time. My wife does individual therapy, and she's actually Lisa is her name. And so that's an option for individual therapy or coaching as well. Folks on these platforms can either DM me or go to my website. There's a contact form you can fill out, and then we'll get right back to you. So yeah, we have a variety of ways of working with folks.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking this time to help my audience, and for everyone listening to this episode. If you're like, okay, I'm single and I am ready to date, I'm ready to get into a healthy relationship, and you haven't heard about it before, I just want to tell you real quick about my lesbian dating platform, where the goal is to connect on values. It's called the Queer Country Club, and you'll apply and just make sure that your values are aligned with ours when you join. Values as in monogamy and wanting a serious partnership. And once you're inside, you're going to see a totally different way to connect with women, from meetups to live coaching. Maybe I should have Dr. Lynda come in and coach one day. But it's just a beautiful environment for growth-minded women. So if you're curious about joining DMV Dating, and we can talk about it. Love it.
Yeah, I am so excited to see that. Yeah, invite me in sometime. One of the things that we love to do, Lisa actually co-facilitates the coaching program that we offer. One of our favorite types of couples are couples that have not been together all that long. However, they know that they plan to be together for life, and to do what's traditionally thought of as premarital counseling. But to help you get just the best foundation, so that you don't have to go through that 7-year itch or that prolonged struggle that sometimes hits at about 12 to 18 months. So that we just love working with couples that they're pretty new together and really want to set themselves up for success.
I love that. Okay, I might have to talk to my girlfriend about that.
Yeah.
So good.
Do talk to me.
I love it. I went through all the premarital things before I married a man when I was young. And I just wish someone would have looked at the way that he communicated with me and said, hey, like, that's not going to work. Like, you're being so mean. I wish that the person who was doing that would have just spoke up. It would have changed the direction of my life so much. But I'm grateful. You know, I'm here. We're all meant to be like where we're meant to
Yeah,
be in this
yeah,
moment. But
yeah.
it's crazy to think that I totally did that, took that responsibility, ran with it, and it still like went totally down. I was literally telling the premarital people, like, he's driving 120 miles per hour, screaming in the car, trying to scare me. And they'd be like, you shouldn't do that, rather than
Rather
telling
saying,
me you should break up with
run.
him.
This person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I know that in your world, lesbians couldn't hide. It would be everything comes out. You share all the nitty gritty details so that you can truly be set up for success and know that your
That's right.
relationship is
That
going
is
to be
right.
healthy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here and tolerating my crazy weather. I've been looking forward to talking to you. I was like, I'm not canceling this call. I'm too excited.
I'm so glad. It's been delightful to hang out with you, and yeah, I'd love to support you in your work in any way that I can. So let me know how I can do that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Lynda.
Yeah.
I'll be reaching out to you because we have quarterly coaching calls. So I think having you inside would be such a blessing. I'll reach out via email.
Okay, that would be fun. I would enjoy that a lot. And I see some hearts coming up here. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, we loved having you. For everyone listening now on live, know that you can tune in. This podcast will also be live again on Apple and Spotify, and this replay will always be in our feed. So see you soon. Bye, Dr. Lynda.
Bye-bye.
Bye. As queer women, that's women with an X, because of course we are inclusive here. As I was saying, as queer women, we haven't always been lifted up or celebrated. We have often felt left out and put down in places that historically haven't welcomed us. In fact, we have been conditioned by society to be grateful for mere tolerance. My resilient LGBTQ+IA community, I am talking to you. I'll bet you've recognized the spark that God put in your heart, your unique calling to impact the world in only a way that you can. A business idea, a brand to build, a coaching program to start, the art to create, the song to sing, the book to write, that relationship you long to build. But that little light inside your soul has often been blown out by the people around you, leaving you conditioned to play small and not step into your full potential. You are not alone. And it's never too late to truly live your most authentic dream life. I would know. I came out late in life, nearly 30, a couple years ago, after being bullied for months inside a country club. Right outside of my weights class, I was assaulted by a bigoted woman who couldn't stand my queerness. She physically pushed me, so I had a meeting with management. I told them I didn't feel safe. I brought forth evidence, and guess what? They did nothing. Sadly, this is normal. But in order to create change, we have to be brave enough to be the change ourselves. So I did a thing. I started my own virtual country club for queer women, a safe place for us to create meaningful connections and grow. So if you're looking for a love connection, networking opportunities, or coaching to live your best freedom life, you want to apply to be a part of our incredible community of purpose-driven, passionate queer women. Join Queer Women Rising, the online queer country club for growth-minded women ready to level up in life and love. To apply, DM me the word rising on Instagram at SophiaSpallino or chat me the word rising on SophiaSpallino.com. Now, beyond hosting Queer Women Rising, I am a personal brand coach and social media strategist. If you give me a moment to tell you about what I do, I can share how I can help you, just like I've helped many clients before get famous online and make more money. If you're an exhausted coach or service provider, ready to scale your business for real, or you're just getting started building your dream brand from scratch, and if you're ready to build your own profitable personal brand, I can show you how in 6 months or less. But why should you take my word for it? Well, I've spent over 10 years in the social media marketing industry, amassing over 400,000 followers across platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as hosting a top charting podcast, building a successful service provider business, and coaching powerful women to build purpose-driven, profitable personal brands. Yeah, I have the social media and sales process strategies that can help you finally make the money you deserve. Because I want to help you build your dream business that gives you time, freedom, and makes real money. So for a limited time, I'm giving away your first steps to go from less than 5K months and advance to 10 to 20K months. Grab my newly revamped Profitable Personal Brand Blueprint, my proven framework to build yourself a personal brand that motivates, inspires, and sells so that your business can thrive the way it should. Just go to the link in the show notes. Whether you're a novice at creating or you're feeling stuck, hitting a plateau in your business that once had consistent revenue, and need guidance, support, and coaching to get to your next level, I invite you to book a strategy call to speak with either me or my team to see if we'd be the right fit to work with each other inside of the Profitable Personal Brand 6-month coaching program. Mind you, I am extremely selective, and this coaching program is not for everyone, and I'm not afraid to say it. I am only taking on serious, purpose-driven, and committed queer women and allies inside of my community. If that's you, book your free strategy call. The link is in the show notes. And if you feel yourself come alive and love listening to Queer Women Rising, please leave me a 5-star rating with a kind review wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to share the show with a powerful woman you know. And remember, when you're called to do something greater in life, love, or business, you will be uncomfortable until you move. So get up and go get what you want. Let's rise.